Mbappe is not the only person to be blamed for last night's defeat against Liverpool. I'm Caps. Let's chat about ball. I have missed saying that. But anyways, let's get into the game. There are a few decisions that I feel like that went against Real Madrid yesterday against Liverpool, and it's not just because Mbappe is not an out-and-out striker. We've been saying it the whole season. That can't be the only reason why Real Madrid is not having the season that is expected of them, considering also the fact that Vinicius didn't play yesterday, and that goes into my first point. I believe that Carlo Ancelotti picked the wrong formation and picked the wrong team for last night. I will say that in the first half, Real Madrid was able to keep up with Liverpool and they were able, I guess, to create some chances. However, when I look at the starting lineup, I felt like we were better off choosing the same team that we won against, that we won with against Leganes. I feel like that team is the most balanced I've seen us play this whole season. I feel like there were a lot more chances created. I feel like we're on the ball more. We held more of the possession. I know I didn't make a video about it, but when I watched the game against Leganes, I was actually impressed and I kind of had this feeling of like, okay, I think Carlo Ancelotti's figured it out. I definitely like the fact that we're now using Camavinga more as a pivot, and I think he's naturally falling into that position more. And because he's so versatile, we can play Camavinga in any place in midfield, but I do think he is stepping up when we need him the most. I liked how Jude was utilized. He even got a goal. I like how the fact that Arda was started. Basically, the team that started on Saturday against Leganes was a better team put together against Liverpool. And I do believe that because it was Liverpool, Ancelotti felt that Modric had to start. He felt like he had to drop Fran Garcia. And but when you have a team against Liverpool, and we've been saying it the whole season that oh no, Mbappe is more of a threat on the left wing. In a game where Vinicius was injured, I honestly believe the team that we should have gone with is a front three of Mbappe, Endrick, and Arda Güler. We have tested it out before in training sessions. I've seen evidence of this. And I feel like behind them, it should have been Jude and then have Fede, Modric, and Camavinga, and then possibly have the same back four we had. But the team that he started with, it didn't really work. I think, like I said, in the first half there were some chances created. I think even Jude mentioned it in the first after the match in his interview that the team did create some chances, but I feel like a lot of times the decisions that were made were rushed, which then caused mistakes and loss in possession. And that goes into my second point. We were not clinical in front of goal. And it's not just Mbappe's fault. We have players on this team that are able to score killer goals, that are able to have moments on flashes of individual of brilliance, that are able to make the passes to break down defenses. And I feel like all of them just weren't doing the right thing when it mattered. I feel like we created good moments, but we're not able to finish it off. Thirdly, I do believe that there are certain players' games that are being sacrificed because of the fact that we're trying to build around Mbappe, because Ancelotti hasn't yet figured out what team is the best. And yes, of course, the injuries have had a part to play because of this, and that's the reason why we don't necessarily have a stable first 11. But however, I do feel like players like Jude, like Fede, because of injuries, because of this lack of formation, their game is being sacrificed, which does affect the team as a whole. Because for a player like Jude, instead of him being in those critical spaces and attack and being an attacking threat, he's focused more on defending. And yes, he does have a good ball recovery game. He is able to play a box to box, but that's when you take away all these attributes to Jude, it kind of just leaves him dull. And in a game like this, I do think when Jude is not an attacking threat, that is the manager's instructions per se. I'm not gonna like it's basically an assumption, but yeah, I feel like Jude's game sacrifice. Of course, because we don't have right back, Valverde had to play as a right back, and I honestly feel like these are issues that could have been avoided if we just bought a right back in January. So there's not in January, but in the last summer transfer window. So there's a lot of problems that I feel like amount to the fact that Real Madrid are not doing well, and it's not just because Mbappe is not an out-and-out striker. And I guess the fourth reason would be Mbappe, but Mbappe not being an attacking threat, I think does come down to confidence. I do think that he is feeling the pressure, and because he's trying to figure out how to be this player. He knows he's the best player in the world, but it's not being translated. And of course, him missing a penalty doesn't necessarily help. It is affecting his game. I don't think I've ever seen this version of Mbappe before, and it's kind of worrying. And I don't know if we're able to get out of the slump. And it's sad because when I look at Real Madrid, there's all these reasons. Well, in yesterday's game, there's all these reasons I can pinpoint But at the end of the day, it just comes back to the manager. The manager is the top of the head. Him and his coaching staff, essentially, they tell our players what to do, and of course, the players have their own responsibility to kind of apply and then add on their own measure. But I do feel like as much as Real Madrid players need to be doing a certain thing, or I feel like fans feel like the players are not giving it all, I do believe that a lot of the blame or pressure is still on Carlo Ancelotti to perform and to get the best out of these players. I think this is the only time, or one of the few factors, where you can actually tell a manager that you're not doing enough, you need to get the best out of these players. And I honestly don't think this whole season we've seen the best out of all these players. I do think we've seen flashes of brilliance and flashes of why these players are some of the best players in their positions. However, it hasn't been consistent like last season. We've already lost like 3, 4 games. Last season we only lost 2 the whole year. So I do think there is much to be done. But right from kickoff, I do think that there's certain decisions that were made that definitely did play against us. And although there was sparks of moments and brilliance, I do think that at the end of the day, as I said, the manager does have his own part to play, and I do believe that it's an issue that needs to be fixed very soon, or else he's going to lose his job. I also do believe the substitutions didn't help. I don't know why we took out Kamavinga. I don't know why we took out Arda Gula. I believe that when we took out Arda Gula, our creativity kind of lagged. I do think that Modric can impact games, but if you're going to start him, you need to sub him. If you don't start him, you need to sub him in. But I don't think he's capable of playing a full 90 minutes in a game like that, where it's a lot very fast paced in England, where the people are constantly running, and with Arne Slot's system. And yeah, but I'm not too worried because we lost 2-0 at Anfield, and we're able to keep up for most of the game until obviously they scored the first goal. And yeah, I do believe that it really just came down to chances being converted, and of course certain decisions on the day that were made that played against us. But I can give credit to Arne Slot's men. They are definitely the best team in Europe right now, considering the fact that a lot of the other teams haven't been consistent. I also will say I do feel like they're one injury crisis away from everything falling apart. But I think if Arne Slot's men can keep up with this, then they can definitely win the league or the Champions League as well as their own domestic league. And yeah, if you didn't catch, also I watched the Juventus and Aston Villa game, and I will say I'm impressed with Aston Villa. I do think that this new Champions League format is they're one of the teams that are benefiting from this new Champions League format. But I have to give them more credit than that. The fact that they've been able to keep up in the Premier League, keep up in the Champions League, and they're not just beating teams that are just like small. They're beating teams like Bayern, like Juve, who play really good football. So I will also say shout out to Aston Villa and their men, and the fact that they're able to go toe to toe with Juventus and take them right to the last minute. And yeah, it's sad that Real Madrid don't have automatic qualification, but I don't think they'll get knocked out. Will they win the competition? I don't think so, unless there's a dramatic change. I think right now Liverpool are favorites to win. And yeah, I think Carlo Ancelotti has a job on his hand. The pressure is definitely not off him and the players, but I do think there's more pressure on him as the manager to figure things out. And yeah, onwards you go. On to the next. It's gonna be a long season, a lot more games, and yeah, I think are there some positives from this game? I think the positive is Raul Asensio. I'm really impressed with him and the fact that because our centre backs are injured, we're able to kind of discover this bright spark in the academy. But yeah, other than that, I think Real Madrid fans are getting tired of performances like this, and I don't know how long the board and the fans will be able to keep up before they start whistling, before they start demanding for managers to get sacked. I think Ancelotti's still safe, but I think he's 1 or 2 more games away from a loss. Like 1 or 2 more games where he loses before we start asking questions like, is it time for him to go? And I have already made a video about that. Go check it out. Let me know what you think. And yeah, see you in the next game. Onwards you go.